Start your video or no?
All right.
Yep.
We will get going if everybody's ready. Now, you good for the invocation? You can hear me? You're muted, honey.
He looks like a stuffed animal.
Sal,
Look at him smiling.
are you good for the invocation?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Glad you could join us.
All right. So, these meetings are so weird now. I'm sorry. I'd like to call the town commission meeting for July 14th to order. Please stand for the pledge and the invocation. I pledge allegiance to the flag
The United States of America.
Public.
The Republic. Which is
One name.
one nation.
under God.
Indivisible. With liberty and justice.
And Sal, invocation.
Father God, thank you for entrusting us with your town. I ask that you give us your wisdom and discernment to lead your town and make decisions for the best of our citizens. I ask that you put a hedge of protection around our staff, around our officers, around the town residents, and the board members. May we honor you in everything we say this evening. In Jesus' name, amen.
Thanks, Sal.
Thank you. It's nice to see so many people here. And it's nice to see a few people online. I really like that. So, roll call, please.
Commissioner McMullen,
Here.
Commissioner Pollan,
Here.
Commissioner Ramos,
Present.
Vice Mayor Satterfield,
Present.
Mayor Stark.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Thank you. Has there been any ex parte communication?
No, ma'am.
No.
Can you swear in remotely? Yep. Okay. First item on the agenda is we're going to swear Commissioner Ramos in for his new term. Congratulations. We unfortunately missed you at the last meeting, but we understand you couldn't be here. So Elisa's prepared to do her thing with, do her swearing in with you.
Okay, can you stand and raise your right hand, please?
Sure.
Or you can fix the camera.
You sure that's not a cardboard stand-up?
Okay, can you repeat after me, please? I, Salvador Ramos,
I, Salvador Ramos,
do solemnly swear or affirm
do solemnly swear and affirm
that I will support, protect, and defend
that I will support, protect, and defend
the Constitution and government of the United States
the Constitution and government of the United States
the state of Florida, and the town of Oakland, Florida.
State of Florida and the town of Oakland, Florida.
That I am duly qualified to hold office
That I'm duly qualified to hold office
under the Constitution and laws of the state
under the Constitution and laws of the state,
and the town of Oakland, Florida.
the town of Oakland, Florida.
And that I will well and faithfully perform
That I will well and faithfully perform
the duties of town commissioner of the town of Oakland, Florida.
the duties of town commissioner of the town of Oakland, Florida.
Yes, so you have your paper in front of you if you want to sign it, and then get it back to me, you'll be official. So congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right.
What about the picture?
Yeah, it's hard to do a picture.
Screenshot.
Yeah.
Shot, Sal. Put your right
Yeah.
hand, do a screenshot.
Yeah, I'll take a picture. I'll take a selfie. This is my right hand. I'll do the left one so you guys can see right from over there.
All right. Public forum. If we have anyone here or on remotely, now is your chance to speak to anything that is not already on the agenda. And we ask that you keep your comments brief. Do we have any takers? Okay. So we're going to move on to the consent agenda. If we have any questions or comments that we need to pull out, please let me know. Otherwise, I need a motion, please.
I'll make the motion to accept the consent agenda as presented.
Awesome.
I'll second it.
Okay, moved and seconded. Any questions or comments from the public? Online? All in favor?
All right.
Aye. Okay, now we are to resolution 2020-04.
What about
Policy matters.
I'm
Policy
sorry, we moved it.
normally they are after?
Yep, we did it OPM first, sorry.
Other policy matters. Oh, I skipped a bunch of stuff. Sorry, so sorry. And that's Jennifer. I'm sorry. Yes, if anybody who's going to speak needs to come to the podium because the way we have the microphone set up, that works best.
Mask on or off?
Um,
Can you hear me okay with the mask on?
I can hear you fine.
Awesome.
So this is an Oakland Nature Preserve update.
Well, good evening, everyone. Thank you so much to the commission and to the mayor for having me come in this evening to give you just a quick rundown about the preserve's 2019-2020 fiscal year. So we had a very exciting year. So let's see, where is this?
You hit the down button, it advances.
Ah, there we go. So everything that we do at the preserve is based on our mission statement, which of course is to promote the understanding of the fragile balance between mankind and the environment by educating visitors about the Lake Apopka Basin's ecosystems and cultural history, and by restoring and conserving the lands within the preserve. So of course, education is one of the first that is a major, major part of what we do. Now, I'm struggling to actually see my numbers up there. It's awfully tiny, but I can give you the rundown. So this year, up until the middle of March, we had over 2,000 student days happen at the preserve. Now, these are almost all elementary age kids from Oakland Avenue Charter to the Montessori schools and other charter and private schools that are in the area. Now, this is slightly lower than it was for the entire year last year. And because of the cancellation of classes starting in March, we did have about a 10% decrease in our student numbers, but that's to be expected. The same thing with our camps. Until we had canceled, we had 121 campers registered for our summer and spring break camps, with 76 on the wait list. So it is a very popular thing. Well, we canceled our camps, but we were able to introduce single day small group adventure days to give those kids an opportunity to come out and to explore and get out of the house. It has been quite successful. We haven't been able to have nearly as many of our campers But it's been a really, really good experience for the adults involved and also the students. It's kind of a precursor to what we're guessing the upcoming school year will be, using masks and those types of things. And the kids have really done a great job with just a few little extra reminders. So we're very pleased with the way that has turned out. Now, other programs, including night hikes, blue hikes, and our Science Saturdays have also progressed this year with the numbers comparable to last year, even with cancellations. Now, our visitor numbers at the preserve, it's really amazing to me. So last year's numbers for the entire fiscal year from 2018 to 2019 were almost exactly equivalent to this year's numbers for a 9-month period. So the numbers have dramatically gone up. We have over 11,000 sign-ins over a 9-month period. We're estimating probably 40,000 visitors this year at the preserve. So we're very, very pleased with those numbers. And most of that information comes through, people find out about the preserve with Facebook, Google, and programming. Our volunteers have put in over 6,000 hours this year of volunteer work. We can't do it without our volunteers. Not only do they work in restoration, they also help in the office. We have our volunteer board of directors and also our youth volunteers that are part of our Leaders in Training program, which at this point does have a wait list. They assist with our camp programs and lead and actually present in those programs, learning new skills. And our eco-interpreters, which are docents, they are on our porch and they are giving information to guests as they're coming and interacting with them. They have been very popular programs, and we're hoping to be able to expand that this coming year with the challenges that some kids are having. You're going to school, but this gives them an opportunity to be able to come and interact with the public and learn new skills all at the same time. Restoration, we have done several burns this year that have been paid for by the Walt Disney World Conservation Fund grant that we received 2 years ago. We have reapplied for that $50,000 grant, and we'll hopefully be hearing something soon with that. We've expanded our restoration areas even more, what we call Area 51B. That became Area 51 because it was full of all types of exotics and alien plants. So it was dubbed Area 51. So we're very, very pleased. If you haven't seen it, you need to go out. It's a completely different looking place. We still are using some chemical contractors for maintenance to help us out to keep things running. And those are all paid for by our Disney grant, our conservation grant. Social media presence, we have had a 32% increase in our Facebook following this year. We've also had an additional increase in our Instagram, and we are keeping our high ratings on Facebook, Instagram, and TripAdvisor, which are important to us. Our funding comes, of course, Town of Oakland. Thank you, thank you, thank you so much for all of your support, not only financially, but even with your physical health. We can come to you and ask questions and, hey, what do you recommend we do here? And just having that interaction is really important to us. Of course, we have our very exciting grant that we received a few months ago from the West Orange Healthcare District to completely restore our boardwalk, which is a 2/3 of a mile boardwalk that goes all the way down to the lake. This was a $365,000 grant for us to be able to transition to all composite material going down the boardwalk and replace all of the handrails. The picture that you see there is the front section that has been completed. So it is really, really beautiful. You should definitely come check it out. Of course, other funding that we get is through USDA, which we've had a 5-year grant working with restoration with them, along with the Duke Foundation. Some private grants that have come in smaller parts to help us with restoration and education, and even the Bond Foundation, of course, they love to throw some money our way to help us out with projects. So we love our local supporters. Event highlights, we had our Oakland Heritage Festival this year, estimated about 2,000 visitors, and that brought in about $8,000 for the preserve. We also had our yearly open house with another about 400 to 600 visitors, just estimating, of course. And our night at the preserve, which is our second largest fundraiser, did have to be canceled for this year. So we are going to be kicking that off again next spring. Some challenges that we have are, of course, funding. So that is just going to be an ongoing, but that being said, we are so blessed to have so many great supporters here in town and locally, whether it's individuals with their memberships, or if you have a monthly donation that you've set up for an automatic for your name to go for Tortoise, those things help dramatically. So we were very pleased to be able to put together a bare bones budget for this upcoming year, knowing that our school programs were going to be quite different. So as long as everything falls into place, we'll be in good shape there and not have to go into our restricted, our reserves to help pay for staffing. And let's see, of course, restoration manpower, that is going to be an ongoing for the restoration for the next 30 years. It takes a lot of manpower and it is all done by volunteers. But we have great leaders there that assist and meet there every Saturday and every Monday working in those restoration areas. And marketing is always a challenge, as you know, but we have been doing a lot of cross-posting with the town, especially on social media, because as you know, social media is king at this point.
I love the critter camp.
You're like, oh yes, our critter cams are very, very popular. And it is stuck at this point. So, but that's okay. The next slide is COVID-specific challenges and things that we have going on at the preserve. So, yeah, that's okay.
It's another challenge.
There you go.
There it is, there it is. Of course, with our facilities, yeah, he's our little raccoon washing his hands, you know. So with the facility, at this point, our museum is closed just because the number of people that were coming through and the size of our staff, we just were not able to keep up with the cleaning that would need to be happening at the time. So when I do have small groups that pop in, especially we have some regular families that come in, I can take them in and give them a quick run of what's going on. We do, like everyone else, we're doing our daily cleanings and doing some really interesting things with the camps that we're having right now, with the social distancing, everyone having all of their own materials that are disinfected at the end of the day. And staffing, I do have staff that are working primarily remotely, which with the small staff that we have, that can be a little challenging, but it's worked well. We've been able to tag team with some of the processes that have to happen at the preserve. We have had to cancel, of course, many, many programs, and we do anticipate our field trips for the upcoming year to be probably non-existent. So we are hoping at this point that our Montessori group that comes every Tuesday and every Thursday to the preserve will be starting back in January. That is fingers crossed. That being said, we are also working with Oakland Avenue Charter, and we have worked out with them to go to them every Wednesday and do 2 classes a day and keep those kids engaged with the outdoor learning and the hands-on that we can provide to them that are really specialties of our educators. So we're very, very pleased with that. Any questions or comments?
I just think you've done a great job, and we're so very pleased with the increase in just everything that happens at the nature preserve and the quality of the work.
Well, we love it out there. We really do.
And it shows.
And when I call about an alligator in my nephew's pool, he's very helpful about who else to call.
Okay, we do what we can do.
I would tell you that if you haven't had a chance to go out and see the new boardwalk, because the first section's done, that you should go out and look at it. It is top notch. It really competes with some of the nicer boardwalks that are out, you know.
Awesome.
Local, so.
And that would be R.C. Stevens did the building on that?
They are doing an amazing job. And that being said, they're even doing some things a little over and above there. So we're very, very pleased, including trees that come down and here, let's take care of that for you and slice and dice and get them out of the way.
That's awesome.
So they've been amazing.
Have you guys, has the bear came up again? Have you spotted the bear again, or?
We have not caught the bear on the trail cameras in about 3 weeks. So he hung out for about 2.5 months. And we had been in communication with FWC, and they're even sending us, I believe, 300 door hangers, so that if he does come back, then we can do some canvassing for people to be bear aware and what they need to know about living in an area with a bear.
Yeah.
Because that's going to become the norm. I really feel like it is. So, all right.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Jennifer, all for everything you do. All right, any questions or comments? All right, and we're going to move on to National Science Foundation Civic Innovation Challenge.
All right, I'll keep this brief. This is just for me to talk to you about. You've got some information in your agenda, a cover memo, and a little bit of information on this challenge. So this is through the National Science Foundation. And I'll be honest with you, I'm learning a lot about resilience right now, and it's not a subject that I really put a whole lot of thought into. But this opportunity came across through some relationships that Commissioner McMullen has made at some of the League of Cities things that he's gone to, and the town of Oakland came up as a possible partner working with the University of Oklahoma for a grant opportunity. The first round, there's 12 grants that are about $50,000 each that are awarded. And from there, there's a second round that once you go through and do the research and put together a scope essentially of a project, then it gets submitted for a second round, and they're going to award 4 $1 million grants. And if you go through that, then you get to go through the full-blown resilience, actually coming up with a project and something that you can implement having to do with resilience. And so what I'm looking for is the opportunity to work with the University of Oklahoma. They'll do a lot of the legwork on this initial grant. If we get awarded the $1 million, there'll actually be some coming back to us to help offset some of the personnel costs that it would take to implement this and to go through the whole project. But even if we don't get that far, I think going through the first round of this, if we were to get awarded, will help the town understand the idea of resilience, the idea of what some of our weaknesses might be. And we're looking, and this is disaster. So, I mean, we can look at things like flooding, hurricanes, natural disasters, things that might impact the town. And the way I look at this from my point of view is rather than being reactive to these things that might happen, we can be proactive and plan ahead. And with that, I'm also, Commissioner McMullen and I have both been in touch with the East Central Florida Regional Planning Council, who's also doing the resilience project. And I may come back with an MOU at some point so that we can participate in that. And I've got a Zoom meeting tomorrow with Orange County. They've got a resilience officer, and they're going through a grant for DEO. And so I'm going to learn a little bit about that tomorrow. So like I said, I think this is a great opportunity, something that we can explore, and I'll let Commissioner McMullen talk if he wants to add any more to it.
Yeah, I just add to it. We're always trying to make sure we prepare for anything that comes our way. And during the presentation, let me just call out some areas that they mentioned that, when a disaster hits, what you need to be prepared for. So energy and fuel, I pulled this out of the presentation: water, sanitation, infrastructure, transportation, public safety, social systems, ecosystems, healthcare, public health, food storage and delivery, telecommunications. So we know when a hurricane comes, when anything comes our way, that's about 9 to 10 areas that we got to be concerned about. And this project can help us be prepared for anything that might come our way. And so when you think about what can happen, how everything can shut down if you have some type of disaster that can really just, destroy or just think about, New Orleans and, and then Hurricane Andrew in South Florida, it can we just need to be prepared for anything. So this can really, set us up. and get prepared for anything that might come our way, because you just never know what can happen with that. So that one slide made me say, you know what, we really need to, if we don't get past phase one, at least if we can see where our weaknesses are and be prepared for the future.
Well, and I think that this is the value of being involved
Oh, yeah, yeah.
with the Florida League of Cities, the National League of Cities, you know, and attending those conferences judiciously and looking for those opportunities and making those connections.
Yeah. See, this all came about because when I went to the National League of Cities in 2018 in LA, and I met some city people from Seat Pleasant in Maryland.
Yep.
And so, funny enough, when I was in DC this year, I was going to go visit them just to see some of the things they were doing. And everything I was actually in DC. And it was actually the day before when everything got shut down because of COVID. And so I was going to see them about something else. And then recently I just reached out to them just to see how they were doing, because they got some other smart city stuff that I'd like to, you know, present to us as well. But that city is so far ahead of what's going on in the nation. And when I reached out to them, one of their staff members reached out and presented this opportunity to us. But as you say, you know, a lot of things that we do, we're volunteering for and we're going to do on behalf of the town, and we bring back these resources, so that, you know, to try to make ourselves better and prepare.
And we're, you know, we're very proud of how innovative and, you know, I think ahead of the curve we are for a town our size, and we just keep looking for these opportunities. And for the, you know, the fiscal opportunities too that come with them, because we couldn't do this otherwise.
Well, and one of the other pieces, you know, they really liked about the town, we met the criteria because they're looking for something 10,000 people or less. But the civic engagement that we've you know, embraced here and that we've expanded was something that really kind of caught their eye. And so there's no downside with this first round. And of course, I keep the commission up to speed with everything that's going on. But this is just to get the submission in by August 3rd. Should we be awarded, I'll come back and we'll, you know, I'll update the commission at each step of the process.
Okay. Do you have any other thoughts or comments?
Nope. Commissioner McMullen is correct. If we can at least figure out what's going to be coming our way, we'll never be able to prepare. So if you get to the first step, we're way ahead of that curve. So.
I mean, we do get good practice with hurricanes.
Yes, we do.
You know, knock on wood, I hope we never have to deal with wildfires. So, you know, this is a really good thing.
You know, the lookups today tells us you never know.
Yeah.
You know.
That's for sure.
And it's budget neutral, you know, they paying us.
Well, we're really good. I think we're also very, very good at finding those opportunities, you know, the boardwalk, the Heritage Center, you know, the wastewater, all of those things. So.
So I was just looking for an approval to allow me to enter into the agreement.
Consensus or an approval?
I think I need approval since it'll be an agreement.
You need a motion, or?
Yeah, a motion.
Okay, so do I have a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve the town manager to enter agreement to participate in the University of Oklahoma and the National Science Foundation Civic Innovation.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Any questions, any comments? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
All right. Oh, there you are, Sal. We heard you. So if we beat that subject to death, next is Tractor Supply Store variance to design districts of zoning code. Oh, Jay will do that one.
Okay.
Jay?
For today, and I just got unmuted now. So the purpose of this presentation is basically two variances that the Planning and Zoning Commission has already seen and has recommended to you. One is the facade of the primary and accessory building, if you will, would be parallel to the frontage. So that frontage would be, and we'll see that it'll be the Star Road, Star Street, and talking about the outdoor storage and display So it's the Tractor Supply Company, and Todd Butler, the engineer, is online here. And Todd, I'm not sure whether you've got somebody else in the audience here to represent you.
Yeah,
You do? Okay, very good. And
I do, Jeff Henwood.
okay.
We bumped elbows earlier.
Okay, all right, good. So everybody kind of knows where they are. 10 acres, commercial, urban corridor in our design district. And it's an 18,800 square foot building, et cetera. So you see it there. Right.
You're not sharing your presentation.
Okay, let me adjust that. Thank you. Okay, I'm going to try it again, folks. I think can you see it?
You have to start your video first.
Okay, I got to get out of it entirely. And
Start your video, Jay.
right, can you see it now?
No, did you start your video?
Oh yeah, oh yeah. But I'm going to try it again and do it differently. I guess I'm just going to have to really get out of there and no, you're not seeing it.
Not yet.
All right, so I'm just going to have to get way the heck out of this, unfortunately, and I'm going to have to close it all up. Okay, I'm going to start my video now.
Okay, there we go.
Okay, now, there I am.
Now you feel sure.
Yeah, I'm going to have to start this one first and then go to the other. No worries. You seeing it? Yeah.
Nope.
No,
Now you really should be seeing it.
Yeah, we're seeing you, buddy.
I had it already.
You see that?
Okay, I'm going to have to.
There you go.
okay.
No, that's my stuff. Sorry. I'm trying to.
Well, why don't you just show yours?
I don't have yours right now.
Oh, okay. All right. So, all right, that means I'm going to have to, I'm going to try starting PowerPoint again from scratch, and then I'm going to share. This should work.
Can we get Jonathan to help you out? Mr. Rodriguez?
What was that? Sal, there's something strange with your sound.
Yes, Sal, your sound and video isn't very good.
I couldn't understand anything you were saying, really.
Get Jonathan on the phone?
This is Pam Dwyer. Can you hear me?
Yes.
I don't know, Jay, I don't mean to interrupt, but Jay, when you select preview your screen, did you select the screen that you want to share?
Yeah.
And it's not doing anything. It's not making it large. Did you double click it? Are all the screens that you have open on your computer at the bottom when you say share your screen? So, and then you have to choose that one that's the right.
Correct.
Okay.
I have done this
okay.
before.
Yeah,
but
I just trying to help.
try it again. And
Thank you,
I got to go to my, I think I know what I need to do here is go to this meeting. And I don't know why it isn't actually showing up the way. I'm going to go to a share screen. It's show all windows. Okay. All right.
Ta-da!
You got it.
Oh,
Yeah. I just would like to see it the way it's supposed to look, but
thanks, Joseph.
good. There. Okay.
There you go.
Yeah.
Advance, only the host can share, so you gotta put all participants in. That's how we got you in, Jay. Can you guys hear me?
I hear you. I hear you.
That we can hear. You're
Yeah, you-
much better, Sal.
Okay. So this is a little bit involved. Now, you all know where it is, and it's Giro Properties is the actual owner. And here up on the upper left, you see the actual store layout, and the building is in the white here. And this is the storage area, and then Star Street on the left.
Go back, please. One more.
Back again?
Yes, please.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, now tell me where Star Street is again?
Star Street is on the left going north-south.
Okay, and the front where the store is?
The front of the store is right here. If you can you see my
Okay.
arrow?
Yep, got it.
Okay, just want to make
That's
sure.
kind of a hard time orienting myself to
And
this one.
yeah, it is a little bit disorienting.
50 right there.
And 50 is right down on the bottom going all along there.
Okay,
So y'all know where there's some wetlands and there's a billboard right here. And then this whole site really has been agriculture for a number of years, with the pumpkin patch, et cetera.
yes.
So anyway, moving along.
Well, I still have another question. I'm sorry.
Okay, no, that's all right. That's fine.
So whatever faces Star Street, are there residences there or not? I don't think there are, right?
No,
Okay,
The church is going to be right here.
gotcha. Okay, now I
yeah,
feel
this
much
is the church. The church is on the left here.
right. Okay, I feel oriented now.
Yeah, okay, good. I know if you're not used to doing this, it is very disorienting
Well,
sometimes.
this is just, it's a different layout. than what
Yeah,
we-
and it's a different layout, and that's the whole point of the variance is that the store, that you see the front of the store here, it's supposed to be facing Star. That's the variance, okay? That's the variance.
Okay,
but it's not.
Variance. So here you see, and this is actually the white version, I'll call it, but it is going to be tan, and I'll show you that in a little bit. So this would be the front of the store, and you have these nice clear story windows there above, and et cetera. And you see there's trucks to deal with their
Deliveries.
yeah. I'm just looking at my slide here, and I will tell you that this is all going to show up. I know it's the version before last, this slide presentation, which is exactly the same that the Planning and Zoning Commission saw. The only thing I updated was the tan building, which they're going to be building now. And quite honestly, it looks a lot better, and they're much happier with it, to be honest with you. At any rate, So here you see some of the different aspects of it. Here's where the storage is located for all of the equipment and lawnmowers, et cetera, et cetera. And so that's all enclosed, and we'll see that in a little bit. You saw that up here a little bit. You see how on this side, and we'll see it a little bit more. This sort of chartreuse area here, purple, pink, whatever, that is another open area. It's got buffers all around it, but it is going to be where there are trailers, so people can drive in and go with the trailers and other types of outdoor equipment that they will have on display here. So that's something to take note of. And so this is front on. We have allowed them, and they've requested as part of this, and you see it in your staff report, that they lowered this down a little bit from 6 feet to 3 feet to have being able to see some of the goods that are going to be displayed in the front between this vegetation and the actual wall of the building. See, those are where they requested some of that were originally 6 foot tall viburnum or whatever kind of vegetation they would be.
And planning and zoning approved that?
Yeah, they saw this too. And there you see the side view. So that'll be facing Star, right? That's what you'll see.
Okay.
So to get into the technical weeds of it, so to speak, the facade of all primary buildings must be oriented parallel to the primary frontage. And here, and this has gone on for the better part of 2 years now. Started out on a different site on the south side of 50, and moving to this site, and the applicant has justified their orientation, and we agree with this orientation staff-wise, and P&Z also, that the proposed orientation is the best customer service and success of the store. I'm just reading what they wrote in their letter, which you have, so because their typical customer is a hobby farmer and he tows a trailer often, et cetera. So the orientation of the merchandise can be seen and readily accessed by the customer. And the building front elevation is not on Star, but you'll be able to see it somewhat from 50, unless there's a lot of building in front of there. Which, if you notice, there is a building. There's a lot in front. We'll look at that again. So the other issue is buffering that outdoor display. We really don't want to see a bunch of outdoor display, like a bunch of used cars or whatever have you out there anymore. And you've all already said that. But the design guidelines does allow for some a fully screened enclosure. And so that's basically what they've done. There's a pretty significant metal wall that's going to go in front of the store there with the landscaping. So it's going to look pretty green along there, and not your typical, which you've probably seen if you've ever been out to the one in went out west in not Claremont.
Mascot, Groveland?
Yeah, Mascot. Yeah, Mascot. Yeah, it's pretty much out there. So the Appearance Review Board has seen this. They approved it.
And do they know about the change from 6 to 3 feet?
Yes, they do. That was all done actually at the same time.
Okay.
So again, the Planning and Zoning Board also approved the orientation and et cetera, as well as the outdoor display. And we had a little video here. It's real cute, but it didn't really work properly last time. And as I said, this is not the, this isn't the presentation that I was trying to pull up. I had to pull it up a little different way. And so it came up with the older one that was to the Planning and Zoning Board. But suffice it to say, it's recommended for your approval, and it's just a simple motion that it's for the building orientation to the, instead of star, be facing towards 50, and the buffering for the outdoor storage and display areas.
So do we have a public hearing on these?
This is not, it's not even a public hearing, to be honest with you. So,
I know that, and I would hope you were not being honest with me. But what I'm asking is, I know this is not a public hearing, but does it come back to us?
no, it's a public meeting though. It is a public meeting. Of course, you know that, of course. It will not, it will come back to you because there will be a subdivision plan that will have to be approved by you.
Okay, that's what I'm asking, is usually something of this significance becomes, we hear it as a public hearing in 2 readings. That's what I was asking. So this isn't the final approval.
This is the final approval, I think he's saying, of this particular variance. Is that right, Jay?
Yes, it's approval of the variance for sure. You just need to.
And that comes to us for.
You've got a subdivision plan and you've got probably a development agreement that'll be coming to you. I don't think you have some of the public hearings that you're talking about because we're not doing comp plan or any of the other stuff that goes along with it.
Okay. And I know you're from Tractor Supply.
And mind you, when they say trailers, we're not talking about big tractor trailers. We're talking about the type of trailer that you would put a riding lawnmower on.
Right.
The very small ones that you would see at Lowe's or Home Depot.
Utility
Very
trailer.
small trailers. The name Tractor Supply is a bit of a misnomer as well due to the fact that we don't sell tractors. Riding lawnmower, but that was just a name, much like Burlington Coat Factory. Why did they call it Coat Factory in Florida? They took that name off. But Tractor Supply has been around since 1934. They kept the name, but they really they don't cater to large farms or anything. It's small community, estate homes, small farms, ranches, and the like.
Yeah, and so I just want to make sure, I'm just trying to be clear that this isn't the last time we're talking about it, correct?
I believe it is.
It's the last time we're going to talk.
We're excited to get ready to.
Yeah.
Well,
And
you're
we're
going to.
excited, and trust me, I may not sound excited and you can't tell how my face looks,
Right.
but
We've been doing this.
trust me, I think this fits very nicely into our rural character.
We've got one last major piece is just the agreement that takes care of the road development and how all that's going to work. So that's got to come back at some point, but this is the only time you'll see this variance.
Okay.
For the orientation of the building and essentially the architecture, the orientation and the way it's.
Which is very important to us. Okay. All right. I think I understand it. Since I got started first, I'm going to go ahead and just, I have a statement more than a question. It does concern me a little bit that we went from 6 feet to 3 feet on the, on the fencing. And I think that the process you've been through, quite well how concerned we are about how things look in town and that everything fits into the fabric of the town. And I know what Tractor Supplies can look like. And I just want to make sure that we make it very, very clear that it's neat And it's not everything out front, which was the first thing I said when somebody said Tractor Supply. But I must say that, you know, from the beginning, I've been excited about the fact that I think this fits very nicely into what we're trying to achieve out on Highway 50.
And I believe, like he was starting to mention, there is a lot in front of the building, so we're set back.
We're set pretty far back.
And they have bent over backwards to meet us on the design guidelines and working with Mike Morrissey, so.
And I'd like to,
Nice to have that lower shrub, you can really see the building, because it is going to be a very, very nice building as Tractor Supplies go.
and to the mayor's point about the shrubs and the lowering them, the first thing that our designer, Mike Morrissey, said is, oh my gosh, those are pretty high. And, you know, what basically was saying is, you know, 3 feet would be very sufficient for those. So I hope that makes you feel a little more comfortable with where we're going on.
And the landscaping is very heavy. And I don't know, do we do the same thing that we do with when we start to talk about subdivisions and things like that? Is there going to be some natives, a lot of natives, and
Yeah, that's all part of
our standard now?
That's required is the native part of it. 50% or more, I think it is.
Okay, so at the table, questions, comments?
The only comment I have is, and it's in full agreement with the mayor, that Tractor Supply to me couldn't be a more perfect fit for us with the type of stuff that you have. I was very excited when I first heard Tractor Supply. So, thank you.
I have a question.
Sure.
It's not about the orientation of the building, but that retaining pond, does that have a fence, Jay? That retaining pond to
It
the.
depends on the slope. And I would defer to their engineer, and Todd is here. He's pretty much up on all of the details, and you do have some of those. I cannot honestly remember whether there's a fence around that, but if there needs to be, it would be a chain link that would be covered in, you know, a colored. It would be colored, not a galvanized. It'd be either black or green.
Just a concern to me because it's so close to the school, and I wanted to find out how deep that could get, that retaining pond, and to have a fence to protect it because it's so the proximity to the school.
Yeah, well, that's something that we can get to when we look at the subdivision. And I don't think they need to go through, I mean, you're basically seeing a preliminary subdivision here when you look at this drawing. And to be honest with you, there's quite a bit in flux going on here because I don't know if you remember seeing that Phoenix group on there. I know they're interested in some of this and changing it around, reconfiguring it, sir. So, Commissioner, you know, we'll certainly keep that in mind, and it'll have to be protected just because of what you're saying. That,
Jay?
Yes.
Can we get an answer to that question? It doesn't, I don't think it's going to stop us from taking action tonight, but I would like an answer to that question before we forget that we asked it, because I will.
Thank you.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, definitely we can look at that. And the way it's configured right now is the way we'll look at it.
Hello.
Okay.
Is Todd, are you trying to say something?
Yes.
Go ahead,
Yeah,
Todd.
this is Todd.
Yeah.
The detention pond right now is actually going to be a dry detention pond. And so it's only going to be about 3 feet deep total. But we weren't planning on putting a fence around there. If it's required, then that won't be a problem. But right now it's going to be a dry detention pond.
Based on the entire development that's going to happen there, that's a joint use pond. If it is a dry pond, it probably won't require a fence. If it ends up being a wet pond, we will make sure it's fenced.
I'm sure we have requirements for these things, right?
Yeah, oh, yeah.
Yeah, well, yeah, they're,
Yeah.
depending on the slope,
Okay.
dictates that. So we will take care of making sure that if it's a hazard, that it's fenced in.
Okay.
So we'll work with Tractor Supply and with the other developer.
And Jay has made mention of the fact that something about the Phoenix Group, which I am assuming it is a change to how it's structured. If there are significant changes to this, it comes back to us anyway, correct?
Absolutely.
Tractor Supply is the rest of the property.
Yeah.
Yes,
Okay.
that'll all come back to you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Sal.
You're gonna
Good
You're
question.
going to see, I will say, you're going to see a lot of details in terms of who pays for what and what gets done when you see the development memo of understanding or development agreement, whichever we call it. So you'll see some details there.
Okay. Questions at the table? Sal, you got another one? You're good?
No, I'm good.
Okay.
I got a,
With Phoenix Group, with Alex, they may be moving that pond over to their property and their buildings over to this property in the future. So that's still in there.
Okay,
So there's some things happening there.
gotcha.
Rick,
Rick?
can you access this through Star Street from Oakland Avenue?
Not yet. Eventually that will happen. They're taking Star Street to the back of their property. There's still going to be a missing section there. And there's going to be some work that we need to do on that section of Star. But eventually that's going to go all the way through. This won't fix that completely, but this gets us the start of that.
Okay, I can't, looking at the pictures here, I see the elevation 1, 2, 3, and 4, but I can't read what the sides are. Which one is the north side of the building? Is that 3 or 4? Which one's the north side?
Yeah, I know what you're looking at. And it's not on the screen because that's the other presentation. I honestly can't remember which one is which.
Jay, do you have the new colored ones?
Yeah, let me see if I can pull up the one that I.
So that's the south side of the building.
That's the south side, that's facing 50.
Yeah, that's facing 50. So this is going to be the back side of it. And this is what the east side's going to look like, is this right here.
Which is the front of the store.
Yeah, at the west side. And this is the front, this is the west side right there.
And so one of these is the north side.
Yeah.
So the north side is basically, this looks like a plain block wall. So when that Star Street's opened up and you're driving down there, you're just gonna see the big block wall?
Can you see this?
What?
You're not seeing this, are you?
You're still sharing your PowerPoint.
We concentrated on this west side, so that when you're driving by
I'm
it.
just thinking appearance when you.
Well, they're going to do some landscaping on the back of this. So it won't be just a block wall that you're seeing. There'll be some landscaping along the back.
Okay, and that's specified in there?
Yeah, and there's already a big oak tree that's back there and some other stuff that's going on, but there'll be some landscaping on the back side of that. Yeah, that's part of that.
Okay.
Jay, can you stop sharing that one?
I will stop sharing now.
Joseph?
No, my question was answered. I was, the lot up front, I was wondering what was going on with that, and he answered that.
Yeah.
Awesome. All right. So I am going to look for a motion, please.
I will make the motion to accept the variance to the design district of the zoning code for Tractor Supply.
I'll second it.
Thank you, Sal. All right. Any questions or comments from the public? Take it back to the table. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. All right. Moving on to more exciting things like a water master plan. Thank you.
Thank you all very much.
Thank you. Thank you, Todd. Hey, Parker,
Yes, ma'am.
are you all rested and ready for this now?
I'm good, yeah. And I made a few notes so that I'll stay on topic here.
I would assume that you are going to keep this as succinct as possible.
Yeah. Okay, so Mayor, Commissioners, and anyone else who is interested, I'm Mike Parker, Public Works Director for the town. So after nearly 2 years of working through the details on this, we have a new water master plan before you. The last time it was revised was way back in 2008. While some things from that time, like Scott over there,
My favorite engineer.
have remained the same. Some things from that time, some things still apply and some things do not. So you take the ever-changing restrictions on groundwater use, the regulatory issues that we're faced with on a everyday basis, and the insatiable demand for irrigation, and then add development on top of all that. So yes, things have changed a bit since 2008. The town was successful in completing several components of the previous plan. None were cheap, none were easy, but we did it. This plan sets the stage for the next round of capital improvements, a new water well, an alternative water system, pipeline improvements. None of these will be cheap and none will be easy, but we still need to do what needs to be done. So with that, I'll turn it over to Scott and Robbie Gonzalez here with CPH, and they'll carry on.
Scott knows how it goes around here.
Yes, well, my first area. Let me pull it down a little bit. So pushing it down, moving to the next slide. Okay, thanks, Mike. Appreciate it. Commissioners, Mayor, Vice Mayor. As Mike was saying, we had come to commission 12 years ago. We got hired back in 2007 to develop the first master plan. At that time, the town was seeing unprecedented growth, and just before the economy went south, they had a number of subdivisions that were going to come in. So storage was the big thing back then. So we were tasked to do the master plan, look at the infrastructure, and provide recommendations moving forward, which we did. One of the outcomes of that master plan was the water treatment plant over there with the ground storage tank and the high service pumps. And so that was sized at that time for the development that we knew. As Mike says, we're now, the town is, count me as we, because I like to believe we're extension staff, is now seeing unprecedented growth again. Mike had mentioned the consumptive use permit that we got about 3 years ago. And we worked with the district to develop a 20-year consumptive use permit, explaining to them that they did have unprecedented growth. So with that, I'm going to go ahead. We did the master plan. We looked at the infrastructure. We looked at your 20-year horizon. We developed improvements after evaluating the existing equipment, looked at the number of developments that were coming in, and developed a capital improvement program to be implemented and approved. So we'll see down arrow. Hey, look at that. Not that I could read any of it. So the purpose of the master plan was, as I said, to analyze the existing infrastructure, existing components, treatment, well capacity, high service pump, ground storage tank, elevated storage tank. It's still online, it's still useful. And there's information out there. We had did a model like we did 12 years ago, hydraulic model, to check the piping network to see that it was sufficient, and if not, where were the improvements. We looked at the 20-year horizon, as I said, more for where we're going to need water needs. As I said, we got a consumptive use permit a number of years ago, 3 years ago, and that's already being challenged a little bit on the projections that we had. We developed, as a part of the master plan, a 5-year capital improvement. We tied it to the water supply plan that was recently adopted by and implemented with the comp plan revision by the town. With the growth that you're seeing, we recommend in the plan that to maybe reevaluate the planning document every 5 or so years. So that's a good idea. We have goals in the master plan. We maintain highly reliable potable water service, meet or exceed regulatory requirements. They're not ever changing, but they do change. Treatment quality and quantity are always considerations as we move forward with that. Serve the existing and future development. We'll have a slide a little bit later that shows an exhibit that was in the master plan that shows the development the city experienced. Serve customers environmentally sound. Look at means for the most efficient equipment, not impacting the environment as we move forward with the new development. Minimally rely on wholesale agreements with the other service providers. Currently, the city doesn't have, or excuse me, the town doesn't have any interconnects with other municipalities, but these are things that going forward you may, obviously you have to send your wastewater to Claremont. You're limited on reclaim capabilities. And then meet fire flow protection, usually through the storage and high surface pumping. You have a network of distribution piping ranging in size from 4-inch to 12-inch. Actually, we have a 16-inch line also that recently considered to be put in out front of the water plant. Mike has had some concerns with the bottlenecking coming right out of the plant, so we've looked at that, and that's a potential project coming forward. Some of the challenges the city, or excuse me, the town has. I was a presentation with the city earlier today, and it's still in my head. But there's a lot of growth, and 304. There is a bottleneck for the piping network along the turnpike and across the turnpike, and I'm highlighting that with the red dash lines. The turnpike is going to widen their area, and the town has been told that they have to move their utilities. So we're looking at some options that the town has.
You just gotta love those turnpike people.
Mike truly loves them. But anyways, so this graph is, or this map is in the master plan, and it's just here for you guys to see some of the existing piping. The developments we have mentioned, there's a figure in the master plan that shows the known developments. Some of them are at various stages of development. Some are being built out. Some are still in the planning stages. The legend on the side bottom right tells you which development they are. And actually the tractor trailer is shown there, so we acknowledge them. And that was, we have documented 10 new developments, but we believe there may be more going forward. So the master plan did look at areas that may not show development, but possible development. We put a water demand on that in the model.
So can I ask you a question?
Sure. Do I have to go back?
You may be getting to this one, but I think it's one of the most interesting points is, you know, we leaned on a build out of 7,000 the last time around that. And now I'm looking at your graph and it's showing almost 9.
Yeah.
So, you know, that's a much bigger number.
It is.
Okay. I know. It's nice. I mean, we feel like that's a solid, I mean, I know we have a JPA, and I know that some of the things that we approved were probably a little more dense than we anticipated.
Going up to in a couple of the areas where that was not a consideration.
Right.
You guys wouldn't even know when.
So do we feel like 9 is a pretty solid end of the road number?
It's 20 years. But we felt that way 12 years ago too.
Yeah.
Things changed, of course, but you, as you were talking about resiliency and other things earlier in the commission meeting, these are things that you guys have shown good knowledge to and forethinking to stay ahead of the game by doing master plans like this and then putting capital money towards these projects that you're, if you want to continue to grow, that's kind of how you need to do it.
No, it's not a want, it's we you know, people have property rights and, you know, I just want to make sure that we're leaning on a good number.
Yes, well, we have, like I said, the development that's showing is really starting to fill out the service area, and you guys are landlocked, so it's not like you can annex much more than what you have done. So I think we feel it's a good
How much do we have left in the JPA?
What's that?
Do you know how much off the top of your head we have left in JPA?
As far as county land annex, not a whole lot, just that Killarney area
And-
is the biggest piece.
And do we look at that, Scott? when-
Yes.
Okay.
Some of those areas, like we had an open area that we knew was within the town service area. We usually use a growth area to develop a flow potential. Usually the rule of thumb is 1,500 gallons per day per acre. So just multiply it. So that's just a concept. So this kind of gives you an idea of where the water was and where it's going. And the water needs, when we got the consumptive use permit, that red line indicates the limit they held us to, and Mike alluded to a little bit, that when we went into them, we were showing some of these developments 4 years ago when we first went in, but we weren't aware of all of the developments, and we told them what the town had potential, but no matter what, they like, unless you had an agreement to show them, they were going to hold us to this reduction of 5%. So that little dip there you see in 2017 on the red line, that was them taking away the water from the town. But even with that said, if we would have been able to talk them into keeping the 100% of what was previously allocated, as you see the growth, without doing any of the mitigating infrastructure improvements, treatment, pumping improvements, we're seeing a pretty good trend of water needs going past 2023. The town is in the Central Florida Water Initiative. The Water Management District has gotten more and more strict with the municipalities within that area. They currently had finished a water supply plan, which is going to trigger another supply plan in the next 18 months. But so when the city or the town continues to grow and are not able to bring that down through alternative water supply, we may be back in front of them trying to get more water. So that is a challenge the town may see.
How does that work? How do we get an increase in the consumptive use permit? Is this something we just apply for because we tell them our population's growing and that's how they come up with that number?
So what happens is like the last permit, I think, was a 10-year permit, so it was expiring, so we went in with the application to renew the permit. They issued us a 20-year consumptive use permit, and when we walked out of the meeting and ultimately got the permit, there was the belief that we would be back in front of them within that 20-year period. And this master plan had shown that. So what we would do is modify. It's not going to expire because it doesn't expire until 2037. But because we were showing water needs greater than what the consumptive permit is allowing, we'd have to go and modify the consumptive use permit. And
so is it based on population, or because we're talking about drilling another well, do they look at where your wells
it will look
are?
at that, yeah.
I mean, if you do another well, is that?
Yeah, that's not triggering it. The other well is a redundancy well.
It's all about
Your
population.
larger well, the biggest well you have, and then you have a smaller well. If you ever lost that big well, that little well is not going to be able to keep up. So we talked to the Water Management District at the time and said, can we put a redundancy well? We're not asking for more capacity, more allocation from that well. It's just to match that. And they were okay with that. What the modification of the consumptive use permit would be, because as you add these subdivisions, you have these commercial, each person needs water. They're new to the town. They have a consumption that adds to what the baseline is. So this graph, you can see it, this is representative of the population coming into the town.
So they want to see us hold the water down to certain levels by how many people you have, how many businesses you have, based on that.
Yeah, it's all based on needs, water needs, and then beneficial use of the water.
So one of the things, we don't have the benefit here of having the reclaimed water coming back from our sewer, because that's all staying with Claremont. So that's where this alternative water supply that Mike's talked about in the past becomes important. If we can get an alternative water supply for the irrigation, we relieve some of that usage on these wells. So, we've talked about it. Mike's already started with the planning process, working with CPH. We've talked to the state. We've got property identified with the nature preserve that we're going to use, and we're going to move forward with this alternative water supply with pulling the water, the surface water, to use for irrigation. So if we can get those new subdivisions that have the dual water systems in and use that alternative water supply, that should help. It's not going to fix, but it should help with our consumptive use. So we're already planning on that, and we've got some money, when I talk budget, some seed money to start that process.
And these things were discussed, you know, in more detail in the master plan, but in summary, the next slide rolls right into that. The redundant well that we were just talking about, the town has acquired some property near the existing plant. So the redundant well will serve that need, and we consider that a critical infrastructure for the town. Also,
but we can apply for increase before the end of that agreement, initial agreement?
yes, you could do that. I wouldn't do that right away. I would do it within a year. So if we projection and we say we get the alternative water, as Steve was indicating, is there's a number of different types of alternative water. There's surface water, there's reclaimed water, which you guys don't have the capability of this time. There's stormwater harvesting, and we're looking at a combination of surface and stormwater harvesting as alternative water supply site that's been dedicated.
One more question.
Sure.
So if you exceed this amount, this 0.89 million per day on a continuous basis, is there some kind of penalty, or
Yeah.
what kind of penalty is there?
Well, they're not as punitive as the DEP, the Department of Environmental Protection. They generally would give you a letter well in advance of that. I don't foresee that happening with the town. What they do allow for what's called temporary consumptive use permits. So we're working actually with Robbie and I are working with a couple of municipalities that have experienced that type of growth, and that they're in for the modification or preparing to go in for the modification. But say in the 10th month, they start to, because the way the permits are written, they're written in a yearly total of 324 million gallons per year for the town. If you start to get that 320, it's cumulative. So on average, it's the 890,000 gallons a day. But you won't exceed your permit until your cumulative number is there.
Yeah, so in the cover memo, I wrote, I think it was 48 or 41 times we exceeded that in the last 6 months. You have to look at that as an annual number. So there are several months that were well below that, but that graph's pretty accurate. And going back to your well question, that's not a need that's based on population per se. It's a regulatory requirement. But if, and Scott said it, if that well over here was to go down, we couldn't keep up with demand because of the irrigation. So that's why we're pulling, probably up to 800 or 1,000 customers off irrigation and putting them on alternative water.
Which we still haven't gotten to that yet, but we're getting there.
Right.
Thank you.
But yeah, that's kind of where you're at with that. You would not let yourself get into that trouble, but this is why you plan. That's why you look at that stuff. We still have time, like Mike said, it's only 42 days. It's when it becomes 365 days. That's
okay.
But we don't want to wait till that. We want to add different things like, there's potential for this alternative water, which would reduce the amount of water that's currently being used for irrigation with the alternative water. That would take the place of potable water which is in your consumptive use permit. So it should show some reduction.
Yeah, I was just thinking we're getting there pretty fast. We got Oakland Park coming online.
All of that.
There's a lot of stuff coming online fast here, so I'm worried about hitting that number.
Yeah, no, every one of those
sooner than later.
And the ones that are already being built, all of that's been put in. And we looked at the last 5 years, averaged that, came up with demands, max day, peak flows, added all the developments, all the areas that don't have developments. It was a pretty comprehensive evaluation. So we feel pretty comfortable with where we're at, with the towns out in this planning.
Okay.
So,
Commissioner Mullen, did you have a question? I cut you off.
yeah, I'm trying to speed this along. You guys can't blame me.
He asked a lot of questions. Let me just clarify one thing. The red line there, the year that it matches, keep in mind, I believe that's correct me if I'm wrong, that 75% is what is where we have to be. Is that correct?
75% is where you're going to trigger that you want to start looking at your alternatives and whatnot. So when you
In your planning.
that's when you start to plan to do something. What are you going to do in the future? Right now, as Scotty pointed out, you're in the Central Florida Water Initiative area, planning area right now. Several of our clients that we're dealing with right now, they're going and telling us you cannot pull from the upper Florida aquifer.
The district is telling us that.
The district is telling us that. They're telling our other clients that. That's the norm that they're gonna establish. Right now, this redundant well won't be able to put it in the upper Florida aquifer because it's a redundant of that well. Now, any additional water beyond that red line right there, you're gonna have to drop a deeper well, which is going down the lower Florida aquifer, and you potentially would have to have, you may have to have some advanced treatment for that. We're unsure. There's several utilities in the area that have lower Florida aquifer wells. They don't have challenges with salt. I think that's more out towards the east. Over here, they have more challenges with disinfection byproducts, when you chlorinate the water, total organics, they're having those kind of issues with that over in this area. But I believe in Polk County, they have a lower Florida. Over here in Lake County, South Lake County, they have a lower Florida well. And so they're using those. It costs more to put down, but you don't know what you're going to get coming up out of the hole. That's a serious challenge. So what we want to do here is we're looking at an alternative water supply, harvesting stormwater, as Scotty was pointing out. And it's all that stuff above that red line, we'd like to get that to be purple. It'd be an alternative water supply. When we scout and we harvest stormwater, then we could potentially, we've already spoke with the water management district and we've asked for funding support on that. Would you support that? Because we send our reclaimed water to Lake County. So if we send that away, we want some credit back this way. And so will you help us fund this? So those are the questions that we've been putting forward. There's a certain schedule that we've been looking at for getting in front of them for grant funding. Is that like early next?
It's early February, yeah.
Early February. So we're moving this forward, and that's what we're getting at right here. What the motion I think will be coming up.
I'm getting there.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, so what Robbie was saying through the muffledness of his mask was a lower Florida aquifer well is also considered an alternative water because it's a lower quality water. Because typically you have to add more treatment to it. So we'd rather explore other alternative waters before you have to put that in and then maybe trigger additional treatment. So the next slide. Identifying water challenges, as we kind of hit this one, redundant well. Irrigation water system managed supplied by potable water, that's kind of the alternative water we were just discussing. We'd like to look at other water quality, lower water qualities to be used for irrigation. And that's the alternative water supply that we're currently talked to the water management district, and Mike has been seeking land to put these improvements in, and I think we found that. Then funding sources. You guys have recently changed your impact fees to increase to 1946 as you develop, so that's good money there. I know you look at your rates. So you always continually look at rates to help with R&R type stuff, maintenance. And then as Robbie had mentioned, we think you have an opportunity at grant with a cost share with the water management district on this water supply, or excuse me, the alternative water project. We had already met with them earlier this year. It was within the last 6 or so months, and they were very favorable with that.
Both the water management district and the DEP.
And the DEP,
We met with them, yeah.
So in the master plan, we have developed a capital improvement program. We have shown here the proposed 5-year CIP. We looked at for priority, we did a ranking of 0 being more critical, which would be within the next 0, now up through the next year or so. Priority 1 would be 1 to 3 years. Priority 2 would be 3 to 5 years. And 3 would be more of a long-term and reevaluate as we go forward. So table, the first three that are the priorities, one, and two, are the three items that we've been talking about: the redundant well, alternative water, and then the consumptive permit. And then storage, if we are able to implement the alternative water, we may not need to do anything with the storage, but that's shown out further, greater than 5 years. And then you guys can look at it. So if everything needs to be done and we move forward, we've put a budget number in there over the next 5 years of $7.5 million worth of improvements for the town. I didn't hear any gas, but I'm going to keep moving forward. This last figure is in the master plan. It shows the existing pipes in the ground that I showed you earlier, and then all the other pipes that the model had indicated that the growth has indicated that we need to send water to. So these are all new. It's small, I know you can't really see it, but maybe on your screen you can see it. But that basically we listed in the legend down at the bottom the projects and identified them by a number and code. But basically that's the infrastructure of the pipe that going forward, either the developer would put it in or the town would put it in, or a combination of both.
I think we've been really good at twisting the developer's arms and getting some improvements, as a cost share with development. So the 7.5.
Yeah, it is.
And impact fees, correct?
Yes.
I think, let me just add one thing, Scott. I think we kind of skipped over it or talked about a little bit was the impact that the turnpike widening has had on our existing system. So we have initiated a quick study to look at that. It doesn't appear to be a major problem right now, but we've got our finger on that pulse. Right now, we have no redundancy west of the turnpike. We have one pipeline. And we used to have 3. So that's a major issue for us.
And I just put that figure quickly back up, but basically that main line was one of the main lines going west on the turnpike on the north side there. That line, I don't believe when they widen it, that they're not going to, no matter how much the town would like, that line goes away completely.
Yeah.
He'd already taken it out of service, but I think we're going to try to, at least until they start doing the project, because they may be out 3 or 4 years before they finally get to that point, get it back into service. And then the crossing, I can't here, but there's a line going across the bridge that's going to be taken down and rebuilt. Orange County will own it.
Yeah, the pipe on the trail bridge, that's going away. And then that red line is what's in the right of way along the turnpike. And they've essentially revoked the permit on that. So, we have no real leeway on that. We did have an easement on that bridge, and Mike's been trying to work with them. They're doing the study so that we at least have something to go back to them with and talk about the impacts that the project's having on the town.
All right, any more questions? Excellent.
Well, let me just add one last thing. Okay.
In true form, my partner.
Parker, go ahead.
If anybody would like a more in-depth understanding of what we're, about the master plan, we can schedule an appointment.
Sure, absolutely.
CPH, and you can get all the knowledge right there.
And you can get Scott to work on not calling us the city. All right, so this is just what we're doing is we're approving the concept. Correct?
It's whatever the.
It says water master plan.
Here, I'll read you his recommendation in the memo.
Okay.
I wrote it before I went on vacation. It's gone.
Oh, here it is, I got it.
Got it?
Staff recommends that the town commission approve the 2020 water master plan and authorize the manager and staff to take appropriate actions in implementing the prioritized improvements noted in the CIP. And again, that'll be part of the budget process as far as funding these projects. So approval of the 2020 master plan.
Okay.
You made it easier, because I was about to say, so moved. Like we used to.
On those kind of things, that's the best.
That's right.
course of action.
All right, if we're ready, I'll make that motion to accept the 2020 master plan.
I'll second it.
All right, do we have any questions at the table? No questions? Sal, you good?
Good.
All right. Any questions or comments from the audience or those online? Right? All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Okay. All right. Resolution 2020-04.
A resolution of the town of Oakland, Florida, declaring a state of emergency due to the threat of COVID-19, making findings of fact, providing the town with powers, including but not limited to those pursuant to Florida statutes, chapter 233, granting the town manager certain powers, providing for penalties for violations, providing for conflict, severability, and for an effective date, a termination date, and procedures for extensions.
So this is basically extending what was already put in place back in March. You know, I don't think anybody thought we'd still be going through this situation at this time, but we need to extend what we've been doing.
So there's, this is not providing a end date,
They're good for 60 days.
60 days? Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Any questions? Okay, I need a motion, please.
I'll make a motion to approve resolution 2020-04.
I'll second it.
Okay, thank you, Sal. Okay, any questions or comments from the audience? All in favor? Aye. All right, we're moving on, and I think there's a change in the way you're going to read.
Yes, it's deletion of and final, those two words. So it's the first public hearing.
That was going to be my first question.
May I proceed there?
Yes.
Thank you. This is ordinance 2020-07, an ordinance of the town of Oakland, Florida, amending the town of Oakland comprehensive plan as previously amended, providing for amendment of the future land use map of the future land use element of the town of Oakland comprehensive plan relative to certain real property containing approximately 29 acres, parcel number 20-20-20-6108-19-010, address 102 West Oakland Avenue. Said property being more specifically described in this ordinance, from low density residential to commercial, providing for legislative findings and intent, providing for assignment of the land use designation for the property, providing for the adoption of maps by reference, providing for severability, providing for ratification of prior acts of the town, providing for conflicts and severability, providing for codification and directions to the code codifier, and providing for an effective date.
Okay. So, can you see the PowerPoint?
Yes.
Is that a no?
That was a yes.
We got it, Jay.
You got it. Okay, good. I'm glad to hear. So anyway, the first step here on this Uptown Stitch is essentially you've got two items, land use plan change, a map change only, and a zoning map change. So your purpose tonight is to approve or disapprove those. And the applicant is here from Uptown Stitch Alterations. Sherry Kent is online, I believe. And she
Yes, I'm.
Good, excellent. We hear you. And we're glad that you're going to.
Okay.
Okay, so this just tells you a little more about the basics. It's a small parcel being used for establishing a business. And it's right on the corner, the northwest corner of West Oakland Avenue and Cross Street, North Cross Street. I think a couple of our commissioners live and mayor lives pretty close up in there. So here's the existing house that is going to be utilized. Well, driven past it quite a few times. So here on the left, you see the current land use plan designations, which mostly provides for residential with some commercial here on the corner. And then this would be the way the plan would look on the right, lower right here, should this be approved. And here is the existing zoning map on the upper left. In the lower right, you see the way the colors would look, so to speak. So you can see some commercial here on the corners there. It looks a little different than the land use, but at any rate, that's what you need to do this, is the C1 zoning. So nothing to be changed here in the designation for the design district, which is a neighborhood or town center designation in the design districts. Here's a conceptual plan for how there would be the building right here. Here would be access and parking and a drive around here. And all this has to be reviewed by staff to make sure, and it says no concrete and gravel and some other things. So we have to have stabilized surface. We're going to have a number of different things, but this is a conceptual drawing to give you an idea that the applicant has provided to us. So our findings are that this is a consistent request regarding the intent of the town's future land use for that immediate area. The Tubb Street, Oakland Avenue corridors are a focal point, and the idea in our plan is it's stated to create a market feasible professional and personal service areas with offices, et cetera, around that intersection. And the zoning, I know we haven't announced that, but I just felt it was reasonable to just put these two together, that, and that's reasonable as well. It kind of goes with the commercial designation. So it's recommended, and that's through the Planning and Zoning Board as well, to amend the future land use map from low density residential to commercial per ordinance 2020-07, and on the zoning map similarly 2020-08 on first reading. You can do these, I will say, you can do these small scale plan amendments with one public hearing, but I understand based on the way we sent it out that it'll be a second final hearing, or second hearing on July 28th as it's scheduled. And that's what I have right now. Are there any questions?
Leave the recommendation up there right now, Jeff.
Yes.
Are they going to use that same house, or are they going to build a new building?
I believe that's the intent is to use the same house with the.
Nothing is going to change.
Except the parking.
How about handicap access?
Except, yes, exactly, the parking, yes. We're going to have the handicap access will be on Cross Street side, and there'll be a ramp and a parking spot.
Will there be some requirements for landscaping?
Yes.
The front will be the pavers.
Right.
And does ARB see this?
We don't have a landscape plan yet for this.
Will our ARB see this?
They really don't have to. It's so small that we don't really need to show that to the Planning and Zoning Board or the ARB.
What about the building?
Or you for that matter.
Do I have to see the building?
Unless you want to see it, we can certainly share it if you request it.
Sal, was that you trying to ask a question?
Yes, I was asking about the building, if they had any drawings on the new building, or if ARB is gonna see that also.
It's, okay, so it's the existing building. Let me understand this because I'm trying to make sense of something here. It's the existing building. The improvements will be landscaping and parking to include handicap.
Correct.
All right. Process-wise in the town, I need to understand when it's a commercial. We're changing the zoning. It's a new commercial. Who sees it and why they don't see it? Is there a process that I'm just not understanding?
Well, if there's no additional.
This went to P&Z.
It went to P&Z.
But didn't go to ARB.
No, because it's an existing building. There's no architecture for them to approve.
True. There is parking and landscaping.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
that doesn't trip the ARB.
Okay.
But the P&Z with the zoning change and the land use change, that it went through P&Z.
And this is subject to whatever our landscaping requirements and parking requirements are.
That's correct. So anything that's paved or traffic circulation will need to have a landscaped area. All landscaped areas have to be irrigated and permanently there. So there's quite a few little details, shall we say, that will need to be considered when we take this for the final final review of site planning and site improvements.
And is it going to be a business only, or is it going to be a residence/business?
I would ask.
Business only.
Business only, okay.
Have the neighbors been notified?
They are.
I've personally spoken to a couple of neighbors.
Now, this is more town function when we change zoning.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So the sign, there's been a sign out since the beginning, since last week, and there's been a letter that's gone out for the second hearing on the 28th. Everybody within 300 feet have been notified by letter for the second public hearing.
And they're okay with it?
We haven't gotten any comments back, but they'll have the opportunity to come up to the second public hearing for the final adoption.
Yeah, the letter just went out.
I got one more question. Say down the road that they decide not to continue this business and we change it to a C1, what can go in there after that?
You could have retail sales and offices, indoor, basically all indoor uses.
It's subject to what you're allowed to do on Oakland Avenue. Am I correct in what I'm saying?
Correct. It's all part of the design districts, et cetera. So you can't just change everything around, so to speak.
So you can put a gas station or something like that in there?
No.
That would have to come back.
There's no auto-oriented uses that can be located in that, put in that location, much less with a C1.
Yeah, the design district on Oakland Avenue is much more restrictive than Highway 50.
It's restrictive. The design districts are restrictive in all of the areas. And so if you start changing things, we get right into the detail of all of the materials and, the window types and insets and et cetera, et cetera. So we'll be looking at things like the ramp for handicapped, and there'll be a lot of things to do here, probably more inside, I'm guessing.
With the bathroom.
With bathrooms, exactly. So you really have to do some
Right.
things. And what you're seeing is, of course, the outside only.
So, Jay, once it goes commercial, it can never go back to residential if Cheryl's business fails and it goes to someone else?
It's a good question. I wouldn't want to say no, it couldn't do that. It's just that it usually doesn't happen, because by the time that you're going to make all these improvements and make it look a certain way and function a certain way, it's you may have to change it to go back. You really can't have you can't have the residential. It's kind of done.
Thank you, Jay. Cheryl, what is going to be the time of operation of your business? From what time and what days?
Depending on how long this process takes, whenever in the next few months that I'm looking to open for business, mostly small alterations, clients coming in and out for tailoring, and then eventually adding on a couple of school students I want to teach at this residence as well, small classes of sewing students, and that will be added on later.
What's going to be the business hours? From what time to what time will you be open and closed? And what days of the week?
Generally 9 to 5, 9 to 6, 9 to 5, 9 to 6, Monday through Saturday. And maybe some summer camps for kids with sewing classes during the summer.
Do you currently have a business open somewhere right now? This business?
No, I do not. No, I do business. I work for dry cleaners currently, and I've been doing business in the area. I'm a master tailor in tailoring, and I have clients and customers, mostly high-end alterations, weddings, special occasions and whatnot. Lately, I've been making masks. So.
Okay, so this will be your first business operating alternations.
Yeah, in the area. I actually had a business in Sarasota in the 90s, in the late 90s in Sarasota, Florida. So from 97 until 2003, I had a small alteration shop on St. Armand Circle in Sarasota. So I've had alteration shops. So this is what I'm trying to move back to.
Thank you, Cheryl. How many employees would you have here in this building?
It's actually it's going to be myself and my daughter. My daughter is following my footsteps. I'm third generation tailor. She's going to be fourth, and I'm training her and this is what I want to leave for her. So I hear you saying, well, what happens if we move on or whatnot? But this is my plan, is to open this and start working it for her, trading her to have for her. And I also want to teach.
Boy, I'm sure you could teach me a lot, but I'd be hard to teach.
Yeah, I really have a passion for teaching. This has always been my retirement plan, so I'm happy she's following my footsteps, and I can pass on the alterations and tailoring to her, and I can move on to teaching and having students and like little fashion designers. And I've always been a master tailor, but I also have a passion for arts and fashion, so that's what I want to. It's always been my dream to pass down. And of course I can sew, and it could be still a residence and I can sew in there and do stuff, but it's just my dream to actually have a business in the sewing school and to pass on what I can do, because not many people can sew anymore.
I certainly can't. But I do have a couple of very remedial questions that I think I know the answer to, but, you know,
Sure.
and this is more for Jay. So who sets the maximum number of occupants in the building at any one time? Does that drive how many parking spaces you have to have?
Thank you.
And signage wise, it will be subject to the design district standards, correct?
That's correct, yes. As far as the number of people, that is really a building code, fire code kind of issue.
Yeah, but does that drive parking requirements?
Well, depending upon how much space they want to utilize for their operation, so to speak, that's the square footage, and that dictates the number of parking spaces.
And signage will be subject to design district standards.
Absolutely, it'll be very low and immodest, shall we say.
Okay.
Yes.
Hey, can you go back to the site plan?
Sure.
Okay, so Cheryl, will your customers mostly come to the roundabout in the front and your employees in the back?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. In the front, I mean, I might have a couple of alteration customers come in to try something on, pick something up. I'm very quick. I've been doing this over 30 years. It usually takes 3 to 5 minutes to get them in and out. It's not going to be a lot of like traffic going in and out. Like as I imagine the circle kind of pavers, like in and out to pick up, drop off kind of thing in the front on Oakland Avenue. And then when I do have students, it will be on Cross Street, just kind of circling around. Parents might drop off a couple of students. Sewing, it's, not big classroom. It's not like karate where you could teach 30 people at a time. That's not how sewing works. So it's going to be very small, like 2 to 3 maybe students at a time that would come in. Parents might drop them off on Cross Street area on that side, because there's actually, this home is perfect for what I want to do, because there's so many entrances to the house. There's 5 entrances to the house. So the front will be kind of the alterations, and the side on Cross Street would be for student drop off, after school program, kind of thing like that.
Cheryl, I got 2 daughters that I need them to learn how to sew.
Yeah. Okay, they can come on over.
I'm always losing buttons.
They can walk, Sal. They're around the street.
Okay. Do we have any further questions at the table?
Don't be covered, mine.
Yeah. So this is a first reading. I would entertain a motion.
Or I have a question on the first.
Oh, okay.
They had combined both of these together.
We uncombined
So
them
we
at first.
kind of leave one, okay.
Jay, bring up the recommendation, and I would just say, do the first one, and then we'll read the second one and do the second one.
So the recommendation there and I realize you're just voting on the commission will be voting on 2020-07 only right at the moment.
I'll make that motion to accept the first hearing of ordinance 2020-07.
I'll second it.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Do I have any questions or comments from the audience? Bring it back to the table. All in favor? Aye. So are we doing the first public hearing also of 2020-08?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's do it.
So reading the title, an ordinance of the town of Oakland, Florida, amending the town of Oakland zoning map of the town of Oakland relative to certain real property containing approximately 0.29 acres. Parcel number 20-22-27-6108-19-010. Address 102 West Oakland Avenue. Said property being more specifically described in this ordinance from R1A, single family residential, to C-1, commercial, providing for legislative findings and intent, providing for assignment of zoning district for the property, providing for the adoption of maps by reference, providing for severability, providing for ratification of prior acts of the town, providing for conflicts and severability, providing for codification and directions to the code codifier, and providing for an effective date.
Okay. Okay, I guess, Jay, is there any further presentation?
No, he included both because you saw
Okay.
the land.
No, there's nothing else. It's basically consistent with the future land use designation, and the immediate area of that neighborhood is to have little businesses like this and rehabilitate, or, basically use the existing structures, kind of like the down the street, the water, what was it? Fire sprinkler guy. Yeah, was a similar situation, using the same house and having.
Jerry, bring up the recommendation.
So staff recommendation is that is to approve a zoning map amendment from R1A to C1.
All right, do we have any questions at the table? All right, I need a motion, please.
I'll make same motion to accept the first public hearing of ordinance 2020-08.
Second it.
It's moved and seconded. Do I have any questions or comments in the audience? Bring it back to the table. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Welcome to the neighborhood.
Thank you, Town of Oakland. I appreciate you.
Good luck.
All right, we're moving on to first public hearing, ordinance 2020-14.
An ordinance of the town of Oakland, Florida, vacating an existing utility easement between lots 1 and 2 of the plat of Oakland Park, Unit 6A, Plat Book 101, pages 70 through 72 of the public records of Orange County, providing for severability, conflict, and an effective date.
Okay.
Jeff.
Going to read off this one versus up there, so.
Okay.
I broke my glasses on Friday and I'm having to use readers and really cheat, so. Let's just go ahead and skip ahead. The purpose of this is to approve vacation or disapprove vacation of a total of a 5-foot easement between lots 1 and 2 of Oakland Park, Unit 6A. This is the one that was relatively recently platted and they put building permits in. It's a sum total of 5, so it's a 2.5-foot easement on either side of the center line between lots 1 and lots 2. J&J Builders is the applicant, I believe the owner, and I didn't write it on here, but the owner is John Schmid, I believe. The addresses are 1001, 1007 on Celadon. Don't really need the land use because we already know the intent. So just to give a context of where it's located, this would be the Winter Garden Oakland line running right down that little alley right there. It's lots 1 and 2. So they sit right on the lake. They are separated from the rest of the block.
Hello? We're not able to hear you.
Hello, hello.
Hello, can you guys hear me? Can you hear me, Jay?
I can hear you, Commissioner Ramos, and I'm not exactly sure what's going on the other side of the.
They have a 2-hour window for a free Zoom meeting. Therefore, I'm the host. I'm the one who's been muting you and unmuting you.
Okay, let me see if I can.
See if you can call Steve on the cell phone and let him know, because I don't think they know that
I don't think they do.
these Zoom meetings gotta finish in 2 hours.
Let me see if I can get.
You got it on mute?
Your call has been for.
Jay, do you know if Cheryl's gonna remodel that house?
I've told Tara, who's there, I was just emailing her or texting her, so I'll try the others here.
I got my IT guy right here with me. Hey, how you doing? Oh, there it is. So they probably set up the meeting for 2 hours because the timeout is 40 minutes. So they probably set it up for just 2 hours and that's it.
There shouldn't be any reason not to. I'm surprised we didn't buy a subscription. It's $15 a month. Yeah, oh, Zoom stopped. Okay, the Zoom stopped. All right, so.
So we have to let Steve know? Because nobody else is connected. There was, 14 people of the town who joined us. They're not connected no more. They're on their own right now.
That's us. We're out there in cyber.
Make whatever arrangements to get their houses or their cars cleaned.
Yes, I think that would be the appropriate way to do it, honestly. Were the complaints from Pulte homeowners?
Correct.
Yeah.
Well, I understand what you're saying, Sal, but if they did everything correctly, then it really is on, it really, I think, the first line of defense should be the construction company. So, what can be done. If the town, if they did everything correctly, then the town, might be on the.
I agree with Steve. They should join together and take it to their HOA and have a one-point person contact Kennedy Construction. If they do it on their own, it's just going to be hit or miss. Someone get it, someone. So I think that's just the way to go, honestly.
Well, then I would like for our either Alicia or someone in our part of our town to put out a memo, because this is coming out on social media. They're putting pictures of vehicles full of black dust and their house windows and their houses. So I like at least someone on our side to say, what we instructed the homeowners at Longleaf to do, and to unite and go with Longleaf Pulte and talk to the builder, so that we're not looking like we're just ignoring them.
Well, and anybody that's contacted us, we have contact with. Try not to ignore it, but that was the suggestion the president I talked to, was to talk to their HOA, and Pulte, I believe, is still running their HOA, and going about it from
It's on long leave at Oakland homeowners private group. 141 members.
What she's doing because she's trying so hard. And every time there's a plan, something else changes.
Well, after tonight, God knows what's going on.
They're still talking.
They're still talking in Orange County.
And the bottom line, kind of where we're going was three scenarios: go back to school, disenroll and go to virtual school, or go to a combination of the regular brick and mortar school and our own mirror online school. We are leaning towards kind of that combination of the two, some brick and mortar and some online school. The first thing we talked about was that, before anybody can do anything, let's get a poll of teachers and see what the teachers really thoughts are about going back to school. And open up and charter school, 99% of people say, let's get on, get there, get involved. So kudos to all these people. It's great. They're ready to go. Another poll went out for parents. And parents, for the most part, out of 500 and some kids, less than somewhere around 100 that maybe not. We should.
I don't mean to interrupt, but I've been listening for.
From the state is we'll open the school with this law. Yeah. I know.
So the idea probably for us, and there also is the point it starts on August 10th, maybe football. So there's so much gray right now that hopefully by the time we come back in 2 weeks, we'll have something specific that we'll be able to. The idea hopefully is to narrow down obviously, but it's almost like wait and see what's going on. And that's kind of the if you get calls from parents, or what are you doing? That's kind of also where you try to spit out.
I think
The audio keeps cutting out for me.
I heard you, Pam. I don't know if you can hear me.
So what happened? Is it gone? Can you hear me?
I don't know. Can you hear me?
I can hear you, Jay, but I can't hear anything else.
Right. Well, I know what you're saying. It is.
Okay.
I don't know if Commissioner Ramos can hear us. Doesn't seem to be hearing us.
Okay.
So,
All right.
okay.
All right. Thank you.
We'll talk to you
Okay.
tomorrow. Mhm.
Thanks. Okay.
Bye-bye.
Pull her up.
I to at least say thank you, and hopefully she heard what we said.
Okay, let's, yeah. I've asked her
I'm
to
here. Were you talking to me? Okay.
Yep. Yeah, we can hear you now.
Okay. Hello. Yeah, you kind of cut out a bit, Mike, during it. Or excuse me, Commissioner, Vice Mayor Satterfield. So I missed some of it. You don't need to repeat it. I'm living it. I just wanted to let you know that I did not hear all that you said.
All right, it pretty much just repeated what we talked about this afternoon on what you learned, what our options might be as far as, going to school, and going to our online school year is where we're leaning to, but nobody is, real sure yet. One passport go from maybe the 10th, they want to put it off for 2 weeks, again, nobody's real sure yet, we'll try to have some better answers, on our second meeting of the month. But the main point I made, and Greg, you're on, I want you to hear this too, is I was telling everyone here about how hard that you are working in particular and your staff and how passionate you guys are about this thing and just how much we appreciate the work you're doing because it's hard on you and I see it when we talk every other day and it shows how passionate you are for these kids. So thank you.
Yes, thank you.
Well, thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate that. There's a lot of information coming at you. There was more information. I really appreciate the kind words. They have been in an OCPS board meeting all day. It's still happening. There's a lot of things coming down, including potential fights against the executive order. So I will do everything I can to keep everybody updated as often as I get new information in a reasonable amount, because it's minute by minute. So thank you all for everything.
Thank you.
All right, I'll see you tomorrow down the school.
Okay.
Thanks, Pam.
All right, so that's it. I'm sorry.
I was gonna ask a question. I know they stated that Seminole had finished their meeting. Anything that Seminole was doing that we may be trying to mirror, or where Seminole landed tonight?
I believe that their meeting is still going on at the same, but the options that we're proposing, I mean, I didn't mean to jump in, are very, very similar to what other schools are proposing. The only thing that we don't have that other schools have authority to do is run a complete virtual, which I know that would take a little bit more explaining. That's what we want to do is distance learning, but it has more interactive, where a virtual school is really assignments are pushed out with just a connection to teachers. And so we are pretty in line with the options that other schools, including Lake County as well.
All right, well, just like
we'll update it as we go through it, you know, we'll have, for Steve do is update us individually as we get to it, so we can get the other meetings, and the same thing is gonna go and move before we meet again, but hopefully we'll have some sort of plan that we can, you know, present formally on the 28th that we're at.
Yeah, we'll bring it back for discussion on the 28th, let you know where we're at. Yeah, like I said, like she said, it's just, it's a change in daily, so.
Change that one.
Any other questions?
What I was saying,
Okay, so that's it. Thank you, Pam.
Thank you. Thank you.
Joseph. I only have, today. Thank you, this meeting is over.
Are you sure? Yeah. With all hearts and minds are satisfied, and that's adjourned at 9:27.
All right, we want to hang around for a while.